Very little known thing. Albert Einstein lecturing to a segregated group of African American students at Lincoln University says, "My trip to this institution was in behalf of a worthwhile cause. There is a separation of colored people from white people in the United States. That separation is not a disease of colored people. It is a disease of white people. I do not intend to be quiet about it." And he was not, but you didn't hear about it.
This is Countershot Master. As you know, this is the House of Truth. I talk boxing and other fighting systems when necessary. Right now, I'm going to have to comment on something that's past due, but I haven't felt up to addressing this. And to be honest, I didn't want to deal with it, but it keeps coming up, and I want to put a different spin on it. So, as you know, things can get controversial here, but the aim is not to offend, but to look at things from a different perspective. This may be a little bit of a history lesson to some degree, but, you know, things in history sometimes repeat, and we definitely don't want to go that route, not with things like this. I'm really bothered to do this, because it's one of those things that gets very old. We shouldn't have to be addressing these things. And I mean, just even yesterday, every day there's something, but yesterday I've had to deal with issues that basically, go alongside things like this, dealing with people out there that have this type of attitude that's going to be addressed right now from Eddie Hearn, or about Eddie Hearn, concerning Eddie Hearn. As he referenced Gervonta, Tank Davis, the professional boxer and champion. So I don't want to be long. I really don't. I want to try to get this done and over with, because it's not something that I enjoy, contrary to popular belief. Let's dissect this thing. And I want you to listen to Dr. Joy DeGruy. That's who you heard before anyone else was Dr. Joy DeGruy. Dr. Joy DeGruy Leary. And she's author of Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. Everybody should read it. If you don't like to read, listen to some of her lectures. It's important. I want you to listen one more time.
So let me move forward.
I slowed it down.
Gosh, I wish I had time. A very little known thing. Albert Einstein lecturing to a segregated group of African American students at Lincoln University says, "My trip to this institution was in behalf of a worthwhile cause. There is a separation of colored people from white people in the United States. That separation is not a disease of colored people. It is a disease of white people. I do not intend to be quiet about it." And he was not, but you didn't hear about it.
So she mentioned Albert Einstein lecturing here in America about the separation of black and white here, and how it was not a black problem, but people like Eddie Hearn right here. So what I want to do is get right down to it. This is what's being addressed. So let me play this for you.
See, the one dangerous thing about Gervonta Davis is I don't think that sort of stuff ever affects him. Like any normal human being, having gone through what he went through in the last couple of weeks, probably would have just called the fight off firstly, because he's making weight, and then obviously most people would just go off the boil and just eat something and then just implode. But the dangerous thing about Gervonta Davis, and this is one of the things that makes him as dangerous as he is he's not a deep thinker. He's not an articulate young man. He's a bad kid. And I say that, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm talking about this is a kid. He's a bad. Right? just like Mike Tyson was, just like some of these other greats were, and that makes them very, very dangerous.
Now, I want to address it because talk like that is very dangerous, and it has been addressed. This was after the defeat, after Hector Garcia's defeat at the hands of Gervonta Tank Davis. It's very dangerous, this type of talk. People have been addressing it and it keeps coming up, but my problem is that they're not getting into the deeper aspects of what's been stated here. And we're going to dissect this real quick, or hopefully pretty quickly. I believe Dante was where I probably got this from when I first saw the statements being made. But at any rate, people have addressed it, but they've come from a different angle, and they're looking at it from a standpoint of defending Gervonta Davis's intelligence or lack thereof. And I'm not here to defend from that position. I'm not here to deal with that. I'll play some clips where Davis, can answer those questions himself. I'll play some audio that will basically trash Eddie Hearn and his statements. I do want to make it clear that some points were brought out by other people on this matter. Because one of the things that he said was that Gervonta Davis was not articulate. He said that any normal human being would be, would have basically more or less fallen apart. We will go back and I will replay this so we can dissect it. This interview apparently, from what I understand, was on DAZN Network. And Eddie Hearn was actually asked the question, what was your assessment of Gervonta Davis's performance concerning that performance against Hector Garcia, where he he hurt Garcia, and I did a video about this, but he hurt Garcia badly enough to where Garcia just had to quit. He couldn't see, he was messed up in the head, and he couldn't continue. So Eddie Hearn was asked about his performance, and what you just heard was what his reply was, and it had nothing to do with his performance. It was basically an attack on the man and his intelligence and something much deeper. So points have been made by other content creators that do, they are relevant, and some of which are, other fighters that may not be so articulate, because Eddie Hearn, of course, said he was not an articulate person. He said that he was not a deep thinker, and we'll get into all this, and that's what makes him dangerous. It said compared him with Mike Tyson, so we'll get into all that. But some of the points that have been made by some other people are that, hey, Manny Pacquiao was a high school dropout. Canelo Alvarez was a high school dropout, but these things are never brought up. Some people commented on the dangers of being what one person, I guess, construed as basically being, and I don't know if this applies to Gervonta Davis. I doubt it, but some people might think that he's illiterate. I don't know. That term didn't come up, but someone brought that up. That if you're not articulate, if you're an inarticulate individual, or if you're illiterate, does that automatically make you dangerous? And these are things that they're arguing in defense of Gervonta Davis. I don't want to go that route. I'm going somewhere else. But the point's been made by some that Andrew Johnson was a president who was illiterate. Points have been made that, hey, it's not that you're uneducated. that's the thing that causes you to be dangerous, because the educated people are more dangerous. Look at the slaves. They were afraid of slaves that could read, or slaves that were, um, formally educated more so than the others, supposedly. But the point is, a lot of arguments were out there, and I do appreciate that some people called him out for his white supremacist views, because that's very important, and a lot of the content creators won't do that. And that's definitely going to be talked about. So we're going to go ahead and break down. I'm going to break down uh, what Eddie Hearn said, because, like I said, really it's dangerous. So, all right, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to play it again, because we're just going to take it almost word for word and deal with it from that standpoint. Because these are the things that that can really catch on and destroy entire societies, as far as I'm concerned. These are the types of views that people like Hitler had, because what we were talking about really is something much deeper than intelligence here. So now let's listen again.
See, the one dangerous thing about Gervonta Davis is I don't think that sort of stuff ever affected really, like any normal human being having.
He doesn't think that stuff affects him like any normal human being. Apparently, he must have been asked about the allegations against Gervonta Davis. His girlfriend had come out and said some nasty things, and then turned around and said that it was not true. And there was evidence showing that she had done some pretty bad things. So apparently Eddie Hearn was saying that any normal human being, and this is going to actually get into, the points I'm going to make. This actually helps make the points that I'm going to throw at you, okay? So any normal human being, he said,
Gone through what he went through in the last couple of weeks, probably would have just called the fight off firstly, because he's making weight, and then obviously most people would just go off the boil and
said, hey, he's making weight. Most people would have called the fight. They just would have got off the boil, I believe is what he said. That's probably
just eat something and then just implode. But the dangerous thing about Gervonta.
Sounds say, most people would just implode it. Now people handle things differently. The way Davis handled that was by waiting for the right time, I guess, and then showing pictures of things that were really going on, and fulfilling the obligations that were already slated, because you are responsible for fulfilling your contracts. And so he did what he had to do.
Davis, this is one of the things that makes him as dangerous as he is he's not a deep thinker.
So one of the things that makes him dangerous is that he's not a deep thinker. Okay? Now, number one, how does he know what goes on in the mind of Gervonta Davis? He doesn't know. He doesn't know. And I would submit that any black man in America has to be a deep thinker to some degree, because everything that black people have to put up with in this society on a daily basis, particularly black men, if you're not a deep thinker, then you probably can't make it in this society, because every day you're being hit from so many different directions. It's not even funny. That's if you step outside your home. Now, you may even experience it while you're at home. Who knows? Sometimes you do. But the point is, if you're living here, to some degree, every black man has to be a deep thinker. To be a deep thinker, as I interpret it, is to reflect, to consider, what has to be done to handle this or to handle that. You get into the matters of family and this and that. That's what I interpret when I hear someone say deep thinker. Now, maybe he's shallow. Maybe he looks at a deep thinker is somebody who's analyzing every little aspect of something to the nth degree, to the point where you suffer a paralysis of analysis. People like him can tend to be that way. Who knows? It doesn't matter.
He's not an articulate young man.
He's not a very articulate young man, but then he changes the language very quickly. Listen,
he's a bad kid.
He's a bad kid. Now, again, here we are. These guys, like Hearn, always want to disrespect the black man and make him a boy. Okay, he called him a kid. He said he's not articulate.
When I say that, I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
He's a bad kid. I don't mean it in a disrespectful way. 9 times out of 10, when you say something like that and say, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, you've already disrespected somebody. That's not every time, but you know what's up.
What about this is a kid? He's a bad one.
This is a kid, he said again. Okay, so a kid. Again, disrespect. Breaking this person down to a kid. Now, you might have reason to want him to be a kid, because if he's a kid, then you can control him. And I think one of the problems is that Eddie Hearn can't control him. And he did want to try to sign him, but Gervonta Davis didn't sign. And he later threw that in his face. So he said he's a dangerous MF. That's what they beat up.
I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I'm talking about this is a kid. He's a bad one.
He's a bad MF. Now, when do these guys refer to these other fighters in this way? This is just complete disrespect. It had nothing to do, none of this has anything to do with the question he was asked, which was about his performance. Okay?
Just like Mike Tyson was,
just like Mike Tyson. Okay? A bad MF. Now he's comparing him to Mike Tyson. That's a terrible comparison, because Mike Tyson did wild out. But Mike Tyson also admitted that he was using drugs. Now, early on in his career, that wasn't the case, but he was using drugs, and Mike Tyson did some pretty, crazy things during interviews and press conferences and things after a time. And there was a lot that happened, but this